Welcome to Scars to Stars, where conversations and personal stories let us know we are not alone. In this show, you will meet authors and speakers from our books and events as they share vulnerable personal stories to spread hope and inspire you through adversities in your own life. The world is a difficult place. You will find like-minded people here with kind hearts and supportive souls. I am your host, Deana Brown Mitchell. I am a suicide survivor and the founder of the Realize Foundation. I am so glad you are here. Let's dig into this meaningful conversation. Hi everyone, it's Deana at the Realize Foundation, and I'm here with a very special guest today, Miss Jessica Hollister, or Jessie, and I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation today. Welcome.
Thank you, Deana. Thank you.
Awesome. I just want you to share who you are, where you live, maybe what you do if you want.
Yeah, thank you, Deana. I appreciate the invitation to be here. It's an honor. My name is Jessica Hollister, and I live in Midland, Michigan. And I guess I'm a culmination of a lot of things, but I'll justify it with just as an energy and silent counseling practitioner.
Awesome. Well, I'm also going to invite you to give us an overview of your story. And for all of you listeners know, Jessy wrote in Scars to Stars Volume 5, which is probably going to come out before you hear this, but it's about to be launched next week. So we're very excited about that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her story.
Thank you, Deana. Thank you. Yeah. So, hello, everybody. I'm really excited to have been a part of this Scars to Stars anthology, Volume 5. And my chapter is titled Hush, Child, Hush. And this story, unbeknownst to me, needed to come out and wanted to come up and out, which is an overview of how I've been able to turn what was meant to keep me quiet and silenced all my life into something deeply transformative and healing for my mind, body, spirit, and soul. But it's also not just about me. It's about me being able to offer those services now to others. How God was able to move powerfully and work powerfully in my life to help me transition from being a victim of abuse throughout my entire life, to being a survivor, to becoming a warrior, or what others might consider a thriver. And my hope is that this chapter inspires others and gives others hope that if you're living in a state of chaos because of your body, your nervous system is dysregulated, and you're living in survival mode based off of your past experiences, whether it be abuse, trauma, neglect, manipulation, whatever the case may be, that it is possible to heal and work through that to create a space of peace, harmony, and balance and joy. And I was able to do that through silent counseling, which is something, and other energy modalities. And that's something that I now feel blessed and honored to be able to give back and offer others who might have been in a similar situation as me.
That's awesome. I need to learn more about silent counseling. So will you explain to all of us listening what exactly that is?
Thank you. Yes, Deana. Yes. Silent counseling is an energy, holistic, alternative way of healing. We focus on meridian points because meridian points are all throughout our bodies, and they store and hold all the emotions. It's similar, it kind of brings me, I don't know the author of this book, but there's lots of talk around how our body holds the memories, right? So that is very true. And those memories get trapped and emotions get trapped from generation to generation. I believe in past lives and, ancestral as well. So silent counseling is a way that when you're pressing on these meridian points, because they're associated with certain parts of organs in our body, they also connect with different emotions. Like the eyebrow is trauma, and the outside is bitterness, rage, and so forth. So as you're pressing on them, we focus on bringing up the emotion, and then we release it through breath work, and then tap in all the good stuff, to fill that back up, fill that void. But essentially, it's a somatic experience to help calm and regulate our nervous system. And I know there's a lot of talk around somatic release and somatic therapies and regulating our nervous system, because there's so much truth in that,
Yeah, for sure. So when I know I've read your story, so I probably know more than some of the people who are listening. So how did you get to, how did you get to the point where you started exploring all of this stuff? What were you dealing with at the time, and how did you find these modalities to help you?
That's a great question. Thank you. So off and on, looking back, I now realize that I had been on this self-discovery healing journey for pretty much ever since my teenage years. And that began through counseling. And because there was a lot going on. And what I've learned, and these are my experiences, I'm not a scientist or, I don't have any backing in this area, but so my lived experience is that from when you're abused and as you're healing, as you grow up, you stay in that mindset of whatever you were abused, your coping methods, it's almost like you're frozen in time in that instance. Your mind freezes in time, your emotions and the way you handle things. So we go through these our body creates these coping mechanisms to deal with our emotions and to protect us, to keep us like, okay, our body comes to the rescue whenever we start to feel upset or feel threatened, or when we're faced with another harmful situation, right? The fight, flight, or freeze mode comes in. And I started recognizing I had to learn emotional regulation at a very young age. In my teenage years, I had to start learning about that, because all these flooded emotions, I was emotional roller coaster, all my life. So counseling was a good way, paired with the antidepressants, because I own that, and because there's no shame in that. But for so long, when I was younger, I had so many people try to shame me and ridicule and make me feel like I was crazy, like I was in the wrong. And it was so hard because I was already going through so many emotions and didn't know what was happening and why does this keep happening to me, and that was my mindset back then. And then I started, like through the therapy, the different therapists, they were giving me tools in my toolbox. And the antidepressants, once I had to go through several. And so whoever's listening, some of you you can attest that when you're first put on antidepressants, it's a nightmare. It really is, because that's where you learn that emotional, the regulation, because so many medications can play with your psyche and make you feel not yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And those side effects can be so detrimental, and they were hard. And I think I went through about 5 different antidepressants. I didn't go into detail in this chapter, but I went through several antidepressants before I found one that I still felt like Jessy inside, and but I knew that the therapy and needed to take place as well. They needed to pair together, because just one or the other for me was not going to be just the solution, because of everything. And there were also traumas that had happened to me that I had buried so deep, I literally turned off. And I have since discovered that. That's another time, another story. But there were some other traumas that had happened to me, that my body just closed down and shut down. So fast forward off and on throughout my entire life, I had continued on therapy, on the therapy course, and cognitive behavioral therapy was something that I needed. I really needed to change my ways, because I had some toxic ways, right? I mean, when you grow up in an abusive environment, I'm sorry, but you can't help but take on some characteristics. And I own it, but it wasn't who I was either, and I wasn't entirely, it wasn't like I was this gosh awful person, and that, no, I think we're our worst critics, right? And then I've been through, yeah, I've made some bad choices along the way, and I've had to learn to heal and forgive myself just as much as I've had to heal and forgive others as well. And then I would say it was 2022, I think, when just things started really, I would say 2020 is when things really started to get a little bumpy. And I had discovered this energy. I consider it a healing energy modality, but others, I also classified it as a personality assessment type tool. That always fascinated me, because I kept running into these same patterns, meeting the same types of people, same unhealthy ways of being, and unhealthy relationships. I said, I don't understand. And I'm like, why is this happening? I'm like, Lord God, what, and I'm a God-fearing woman, and I know he has his ways. And something I had learned in therapy and counseling all of those years was that I can only focus and change me and the way that I think and the way I'm being. And I really wanted to be able to accept people for who they were and really meet them. I'd heard this phrase back around 2020 when I started working for a particular company. I really liked how they were trying to help others learn about themselves. It was a self-discovery type of business. And that really sparked my interest, because I was like, okay, I need to learn more about myself. I liked how they use the phrase meeting people where they're at. And I was like, I love that. That makes sense. I don't know exactly what that means, but I want to learn about that, So started learning a little bits here and there. And again, the therapy was very helpful for me. And the medication, that ended up being a real big nightmare for me. So ultimately, I'm no longer on the medication, just because I had so much, my body is very sensitive, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. I'm like, I can't, there's got to be a different way. So that's for me. I don't recommend everybody. Definitely, I'm not a medical professional, so please stick with your healthcare providers. Okay, you're but
I think that I think that all of us, to your point you made a few minutes ago about bad choices. I mean, we all have bad choices in our lives that we regret or we wish we would have decided differently. But I
yeah,
think it's also a tool for us to learn about ourselves and how to learn what we like, what we don't like, how to be better, all of those things. And to your point about the medications, I was on an antidepressant one time. This was 30 years ago after my suicide attempt, and I hated the way it made me feel.
yeah,
And at the time, I drank a lot, and they told me I couldn't have alcohol while I was on it, and so that was another reason I didn't want to take it.
yep,
But I wasn't on it very long, and I haven't ever been on one since then. But I think, just what you said, people have to find what's right for them, and sometimes it takes a while. Hi there, it's Deana. If you like our podcast and you're enjoying learning about other people's stories of overcoming adversity, please go over to therealizefoundation.org and support us by donating. We believe that conversations, community, and personal story can change lives and reduce suicide ideation. And we also have a way, if you have a business, you can support us without money out of your pocket. So go on over to realizefoundation.org and look at the donate page, and you can learn how to support us as a business, and also you can donate any amount. Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that too. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think without judgment, right? Not judging ourselves and learning as much as we can about ourselves. And that ultimately just kept, I'm like, ooh, I like that. Let's learn about that. And then I learned about Reiki. And then I learned about a former colleague, and she's a friend. She was going to get her license in certification in silent counseling. And she says she was looking for her case studies. And I go, oh, I don't know what it is, but it sounds cool. I've done a whole lot of this, all these years, all my life. Let's try a little silent counseling. Let's see what it is. And oh my gosh, that was such a game changer for me. I thought I was hooked. I mean, there's no way. My body just wept. It just wept every time. And I didn't. And she held such beautiful space for me. And I didn't remember I didn't know what half the questions she was asking me, but I did what she told me. She told me to press here, and as I did, just tears started rolling down my face, and then just my body just started. I physically started to feel all of this releasing, like all of these emotions coming up and out. It was almost like a wave coming up and out of my body. And I was classified as agoraphobic. So I really had, from my doctor had, because I had a really hard time going out in public and being around people. It was like high through the roof anxiety, put on a smile and wave. And so after that silent counseling session, that one session that I had with her, there was a big event following, that following weekend or, shortly thereafter. And for the first time in 40 some years, I was actually able to walk into a huge event without this overwhelming sense of stress, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, like, oh, I should be doing something, or, oh, I have to say hi to people, or I have to do for which, don't get me wrong, we do. That's, I mean, we're all, but not to the like over, I'm talking like over analyzing, overthinking, you know, oh, if I didn't say, you know, if I didn't say something, you know, they look upset. Did I do something? You know what I mean? That type of thought pattern would go through my head, you know. And I do believe there's an association with back to the trauma, you know, surviving that trauma. But that is like a survivor, what would you say that? A survival instinct, perhaps? I don't know. But anyway, I was able to go through, and it was beautiful. I really wanted to learn more about that modality after that, because that had made such a big difference in my entire life. And then a few years later, or a couple years later, my papa passed away unexpectedly. I got the call, and I think it was one of the most, and I do talk about this in the chapter, where as devastating as it was to get that news, after having to leave his house, because he was at his home when it had happened, and having to drive back to my house, which was only about 15 minutes away, was just like it felt like it was a hours long drive. And I got this overwhelming wave of peace and calm. And the sun, it was a sunny day. It was cold, but it was sunny. And a bald eagle flew. I was in the passenger seat, and a bald eagle literally like flew right in front of the truck and landed on a tree branch, like just almost eye level with me. And I knew it was going to be okay. I felt like it was Papa saying, "It's okay, baby bear. I'm free now, and I'm safe, and I'm happy." And then just things started to really, I started to do a lot of self-reflecting. And because I was not living up to, I didn't feel good. And I wasn't really, I took a long, hard look in the mirror, which was hard for me to do, because up to that point, I hadn't spent more than 5-10 minutes. The only time I was in the mirror was literally to brush my teeth, put my hair up, and go. You know, I pretty much avoided the mirror as much as I could up to that point. And human design played a big part of me learning and growing and evolving. And
well, I want to say something about the mirror first, and then I have another question for you.
Yeah.
But in I think it was 2020 or 21, somewhere around there, I was in a lot of virtual groups, which I'm sure all of us were. And I met a lady that is a coach, and she had talked to me about, in a group, but it was at like an event she did. And I was really just there to support her, because we were both in a virtual event program, because we'd both done events, but not on Zoom, you know, and so we were learning.
yeah.
And so I went to support her at her event. And one thing she said out of the 3 days we were there, she said, go in the bathroom and look in the mirror and say, I promise to take care of you mentally and physically every day. I had never heard anybody talk about something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I walked in the bathroom and I started to say it, and I just started bawling.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, that was a wake-up call for me. And I even asked her for permission to put that in my Shower Genius book, because I feel like it was just so powerful
Yeah.
to look yourself in the eyes and say something that, for me, I figured that would be easy to say. And when I said it, I realized I hadn't taken care of myself in
Yeah.
many ways. And
Right.
so that was a awakening moment for me to say, you know what, I really haven't taken care of me and what I need to do for myself. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important because so many of us are people pleasers and business owners and leaders that feel like we need to take care of everyone else, but we don't stop to take care of ourselves. It's really
Yeah.
important. And then I wanted to ask you because I still am not completely clear on what human design is. So I want to understand that better.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so human design is a personality. The best way that I can describe it and sum it up is a personality assessment tool. It combines 5 different modalities: the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the astrology, the chakra system. So we're all energetic beings. We all, whether we realize it or not, we send and receive. We're like those, what do you call those signal towers?
Mhm.
We're all, every single being, even the babies, we're sending and receiving. And
Mhm.
we're all made up of, in different, we embody all of the human design, but there are 5 different types. And it really goes down to, it talks like the overall is like centers, the head, ajna, throat, heart, and so forth. And then human design talks about like we've got the gates and channels, and every gate and channel is makes up the different emotions and the different parts of our body and our being, our way, our thoughts, our decisions, our feelings, how we process things, how we deal with things, and how we send and receive. How we send and receive um, information to each other and out and with each other, how we interact with others. And so human design, it talks about, it shows us what the highest, how we will feel and what it would look like when we're in our highest self-expression of a particular area, like a gate. It,
Interesting.
and then I'm looking over here because my chart is over here. I keep my chart up here. It's just that I'm a manifesting I'm an emotional manifesting generator. But it also talks about like the lower expression of
Mhm.
that gate too. So where I'm a communication, I have a defined throat center and a defined throat chakra, which is typically means it's easy for me to speak up and out. Well, with all the trauma and abuse and all of that getting down into my psyche, I lived in the low expression of myself, which was contract, constrict,
Mhm.
stay silent, don't say, I would talk, but I wouldn't say what I really needed to say.
Mhm.
So, learning to heal that, which, I mean, it'll heal all parts of us, but that's one area to focus on. For me, that was one area that I needed to focus on. And I knew it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense for me.
Mhm.
Right. So, human design, I think, is just a beautiful self discovery tool. And I recommend everybody at least look up your free human design chart if that interests you, and go from there and check out and see. You can learn a lot about yourself and how you handle. Like, another thing, what I found out was when I'm feeling frustrated or irritable, it's because I'm out of alignment from doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm out of alignment with my purpose, with my mission. So how do we fix that? And, it's just like, okay, how do I shift my perspective? That's what it's not. So how I said, how do I fix that? That's what I would say to myself. And now I know, like, the way that I would talk to others, it's like, you don't need fixing, but you don't need to fixing, period.
Mhm.
At the same time, can we just reframe that and change our perspective?
Yeah.
And that has been really helpful.
That's,
I
helpful.
hope that answered.
Yeah. I'm excited. I've heard about human design many times, and I've just never really dove in to really understand it. So thank you for the explanation, and I will look it up.
Absolutely.
But I really appreciate you being here and sharing with us today.
Thank you, Deana. I appreciate you as well. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share. I appreciate you and all you do.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you joined us for this conversation. My wish is that you found comfort and hope in your own unique situation. If you resonated with our message, please head over to therealizefoundation.org, where you can apply to write your own story in one of our books. You can also download our 60 Ideas for Self-Care on the resources page. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, you are not alone, you are worthy, and you are enough.